All right. Shall we call this meeting to order? Turn my phone down. Well, the recommendation is to go through the budget from the committee.
Did you want to go through, excuse me, did you want to go through the budget on what we had done originally against what Sean had presented? The differences, or did you want to start new?
Well, that would be a starting point.
Well, why don't I start, can I start it off?
Modified preliminary, go right ahead.
All right, I happened to go over this morning and talk with Lee Broyles for Office for the Aging.
Mm-hmm.
And I gotta say, she's a very nice lady. And I asked her, because we had this sheet that you gave us, Mr. Thayer, and it said that if you didn't get X number of dollars, she's got on here, if Montgomery County gave less than $210,000, there would be no federal or New York State revenue. It'd be 0-0, which means that you'd have all kinds of, who knows what would happen, state allocating what, coming in, telling you how to do what. You'd have a lot of senior citizens costing you, coming up here for DSS, etc. So I'm going to do something which I feel should be done on a moral issue. I'd like to amend that line item that we have in the budget. I think it's 4578, and add $210,000 so we can take care of the senior citizens in Montgomery County. I think that's our obligation. Now, you put in $5,250, I believe, per mile for the roads. That's 40 miles of roads that could be given up that would be able to take care of the senior citizens if some towns want to arbitrarily do it. Because I believe you signed individual contracts, as I brought up before. So maybe that would be a means of funding it, or find a means of funding it. But I think you're going to have more problems by not funding it than by leaving it at zero. You're probably going to cost you more in the long run. Plus, you got to look at how many meals and people depending on this, and things are bad all over. So you have an obligation. I think that people who paid their dues over the years, and I think it's the right thing to do, and more of a right thing to do would be give up 40 miles or more roads, because I don't think that's going to break the county. If you got 400, it only leaves 360. I think that would be, in my estimation, that would be easy to do. I mean, I've heard it from people in here saying they could easily lower the amounts, so it doesn't seem to me it would be difficult. So that's what I'm advocating. I'm only one vote. If you don't do it here, I'm going to put a resolution up anyway when the budget comes to add that money.
So you want to add 210,000?
Yes, that's what she told me. She said that should do it. The 210 should be able to keep that place afloat.
Okay, if I might interject on your point. In essence, you're taking the money away from the towns.
I'm offering a solution.
Let me finish,
Okay,
please.
sorry. I apologize.
I think if you were to look in my town, you would find that there are very few recipients of meals or other services provided by OFA. But yet my town, out of my town budget, we send money to OFA. So now what you're doing is you want me to go back to my town and say, well, we're sending them money out of our budget, our town budget. We're not utilizing the services, the residents of the town of Root, and we're going to take plow money away so that we make sure OFA is funded. There's a small problem with my town, so I wouldn't be able to support that. Just couldn't.
Just a suggestion. Otherwise, find it from fund balance. I personally figured get it somewhere. It was just a suggestion because I had heard here some towns saying we could give some up. I mean, I thought that's what I heard.
I was more than willing to do that, but you currently have contracts in place. They've already been signed.
Oh, they've already been signed.
Yes.
Can they be amended?
Oh, I imagine there's probably a clause in there where we can open them back up. I don't know. I'd have to check with the county attorney and with Paul.
The 400 miles of roads is not a town issue. It's a county issue.
Correct.
And those are county roads. They happen to be located in towns and villages in the city. All right. So if you want to pursue that route from a county level, then say there are 40 miles of county roads you want to to block off abandon. See,
No, I'm
then,
just offering
then, you know, then what it
No,
does.
no, wrong.
Excuse me. Then it takes that 40 miles out of the system. Then you don't have to worry about it.
No.
But find 40 miles of roads that we can abandon.
Wait, take it to the others, the mathematical step. If people said that they don't need 5250, we can do it for 4600 and we got X number of miles of road. Let's find out what that is. That's what I'm basically saying. Doesn't have to be. When I asked, where'd the 5250 come from? I think the only supervisor who really made sense out of it and says, because we could. It could be 5246. Where'd the number come from? So what I'm saying, I heard numbers in here, I heard Mr. Thayer say 4,900. I heard, you hear other numbers in here. So change it from 5250. Don't take the 5250. Do it for 4,500.
I think
And that's
perhaps,
only one section, otherwise take it out of the fund balance. But listening, and I spent a lot of time with her this morning. It's a very nice person, right up front,
I'm sure.
says what it says, and you're looking at it from what would happen. And having been someone who, in the job I had, dealt with a lot, we have a lot of senior citizens in the city of Hampshire. Having dealt with them and seeing the situation a lot of them are in and what's going on, there comes a point where you got to say they don't have any luxury of time. I don't know how some of them are living, actually, and to just something that they may need for us to sit here and do that, I don't think that's morally right. That's my opinion. It's only my opinion. I'm 137 votes, but if you have to take that out of fund balance, people get mad at me for that. Personally, that's what I would do. Just offering suggestions.
I mean, if that's how we're going to approach it, I mean, the idea of if by going to them and asking them why do they need 210 to maximize their program?
I did.
Then how does Fulton County and their budget
I asked her all these questions this morning.
And she said?
She said because it's done by Fulton County. It's a department. Used to be a department, I guess, in the county. Yes or no, till Father Garzone was involved. Wasn't it a department? That's what I was told. Now, I can't remember everything, but I think they're right. It used to be part of the county.
It was.
And then all different departments put in different dollars.
Then maybe the thought should be is that you bring it back to the county, and the county does it for the $65,000 like Fulton County does.
But it could be more than 65,000. You'd have to check about how it's really funded and what happens. What I understood this morning, and I'm going by the people that work with it, is that there's certain parameters set by the state and the federal government on this is what you have to do, here's the amount of money which is needed to make this work. So I didn't know that, so I figured because we had 120,000 been put in there, and I says, let me go and ask. The best thing to do, since that's a major item here, is to find out. And the way you find out is you go and you ask, and I'm going to take her at her word.
Did the population, I gotta ask you, did the population change? Because when I got here in 1998, our contribution to OFA was 75,000. Then in 2004 or 3, it went up to 125,000. Now we're at 220. They were asking for 320, but yet you say 210 is what the golden number is.
This is what they gave us.
No, I'm not questioning what they gave you, Michael. I'm just asking you is that it seems like at 75,000 we did one thing. At 220, it seems like we're doing
And what year are you talking
lot
about?
more.
Because I'm sure the budget wasn't $90 million.
Now, I'm fairly sure.
Things changed.
I didn't think, truthfully, I didn't think that the transportation still existed. I thought they got rid of the transportation 2 years ago. But yet, in that chart, it says they have to provide transportation.
I saw it. I read it.
I thought transportation was gone.
Well,
Because
we're
they couldn't
finding
afford
out.
it.
I'm just looking at it from a practical standpoint. That's my opinion again. That's how I
There's no
feel.
transportation in St. John's for senior citizens. So it appears to be that everything we're talking about is that we have congregate meals in St. John'sville, and the meals for the elderly is important. Nobody's denying that.
I asked that
But
question
the thing
this
is, do
morning.
we provide legal services?
I
She
asked
says we
her
have
that
to.
question this morning. I wasn't without being able to ask questions.
She says we have to provide legal services.
And they're saying that, I said, what if we just wanted to provide meals? Because I knew that was going to come up here. And she said, it doesn't work like that. that the programs are set of what you must do, and here it is. I said, you can't, she said, to her knowledge, you can't change it. So I remember that's why I went over there this morning, because I figured somebody was gonna say that. This is what she's telling me, okay, I respect her for telling me this, etc. This is what I'm gonna do. If it doesn't pass, I tried.
Do they have bonds?
I don't know, I asked her.
Yeah, because they went in debt for the,
Yeah,
for the,
building.
for the kitchen in Palatine Bridge.
Okay.
I'm gonna throw that one up again. That's fund balance.
Did you make it bigger? I can't
No, I
see
made that bigger. I'll give it down here, yeah. Yeah, make it bigger. The thing is, okay, you wanna hit the fund balance? Then we'll hit it until then what happens in 2014 when we don't have that to.
Well, you know, there's a lot of senior citizens that don't have to
Well, there's-
2014. They're probably losing their houses. We probably got a ton of foreclosures in the
From
city.
property
Things
taxes.
that are happening, yeah, from everything.
Right.
But you know, if one person needs just to have a little bit, then sometimes you gotta look at it from the other aspect. You know, I don't like raising taxes, and I would cut something else. You got money, if I had money in the bank and I need to provide somebody myself with a meal, I'm not gonna stay here and say, well, I'll starve. And I'm not doing myself any good, okay? If it is, it's there. Do what you want to do. I've made my point, and I'm going to stick to it. I'm not going to be wavering.
The 2% cap that we're not exceeding is 13% for the town of St. John's.
I saw it.
We can argue
I
how
agree.
it gets there.
It's right there.
We can argue how it gets there, to 13% this time. You know, that's a debate. To me, that's not going to exist. That 13% is intolerable.
All right, so how do you propose based upon the way
And-
this
and
is
I-
calculated, with everybody being used together when they calculate the total values, how do you propose bringing that down?
How do you
Without
pro-
using extra money that they have, unless you cut. Are you proposing we'll cut the rest of it?
You have to cut.
All right, then let's go.
You have no future.
Here's a lot of people that probably won't have a future, what's going on. If in January again, my voice is better today, so I can talk. What I was trying to say last night was, there's the so-called Bush, you want to call them Bushel, whatever you want to call them, tax cuts. Going to have a major impact. Wait a minute, it does have an impact on everything. Everything's connected. If you've read Gerald Salenti and you've read other people on trend analysis and you look at what's going on around, it's not nice. If you look at other counties around the state and around the country, they're cutting. They've got problems. Yesterday, I know cities are different, but there's cities asking Governor Cuomo now, they want to go bankrupt. Major cities in New York State. This is not funny. We're in a horrible situation, but you don't punish people who paid their dues forever. That's the way I feel. Take it out of the fund balance. I personally don't care. Cut whatever else you have to cut. But you know, you can't take this and use it as a pawn. If you don't want to vote for it, don't vote for it.
This is going to be an interesting meeting.
There's pain out there. It's not that you sit there that you don't feel somebody's pain, but you heard the same argument when you talk about Medicare Advantage. Some people are going to get hurt, so let's do away with that. Let's not go through the Medicare Advantage. Let's add that $350,000 back in to the budget.
Right.
There's pain. You're not going to don't know. There's not a consensus here to raise the property taxes. Everybody agrees to that.
Not everybody. I heard some people would raise the property tax.
Okay, there isn't a majority.
Okay.
There isn't a majority that are willing to raise the property taxes.
Okay. Well, then let's
You
go on to
use the
another
same
item. I've made my
argument.
point.
You know, Dan McCoy says I'm going to in Albany County.
Right.
We're going to increase property taxes 9% because I want to keep the non-mandated. So at least he's honest. But you know, the thing is that when you spend yourself down to oblivion, you want to talk about the things that will happen? When your bond rating goes down because we live on debt? 35 million or 34 million or whatever we got?
So you have to admit, maybe there were some bad decisions made.
Well,
Because I was at the public hearing.
decisions are in the eyes of the beholder, I guess, whether they're bad or good. All right?
And I didn't tell you to give away the sales tax.
To Dominic's point, I don't know what kind of OFA services he gets in his town. But just in the tentative, his seniors are looking at a $4.31 increase per
I see
thousand.
that.
So there has to be a balancing act. Do I agree with taking 100% of OFA's money away? No. We have to find a balance. But there are other parts of the budget that we're going to have to find a balance as well. And nobody's gonna like it, and I mean nobody, except perhaps the taxpayer, if we can deliver something that doesn't mean that they get crucified in their tax bill. So we can go toe to toe all day, or we can try to find our common area, work on that, and then the more difficult areas, perhaps come back and attack those separately, spend a little more time. But I don't really want to get bogged down on any one area. If we can try to move along, find some common area where we have agreement, and come back to the more difficult areas, if that's acceptable. Which,
I got one comment. And I think we should all either say yes or no. Do we want to spend any of the little bit of fund balance that we have left? Because if you don't have a starting point and you say, well, we're going to take it out of fund balance, okay, we're not going to have anything left. We're down to, the way Dominic explained it yesterday, and correct me if I'm wrong, we're down to approximately $3.5 million.
At the top, you're gonna be even if we agree with with Paul and where Paul's been working with FEMA, so you're still looking another 400, so you're looking at 4.2 at best.
Right. So basically, I mean, are we going to keep this fund balance the way it is and not use it, go through the budget, come up with a recommendation for the full board without using any of the fund balance and not using these fictitious revenue things that we're projecting?
well,
Because if we don't make these revenue projections, guess where the money's going to come from? The fund balance, or wherever you're going to put it. So if you deplete the fund balance right off the bat, you're not going to have any place to go for the money, because you're not going to meet all of these revenues. Who knows if the sales tax is going to stay the way it is? Who knows if the sheriff is going to keep on with the revenue he's got? I'm not going to put either one of these guys on the spot, but if they don't make it, okay, with a fund balance, they know they can come back to the fund balance. So you better make up your mind, or we better make up our mind, whether we want to use any of the fund balance right off the rip.
well, the tentative budget is
Uses-
utilizing $1,330,000 of fund balance.
And I disagree with that. That's my opinion.
So you're saying
I don't think we
less.
should use any of the fund balance. And I think we should look and see where we can do with or without, and then go from there. If it means not doing something to outside agencies, the people here are more important than the outside agencies. But then again, you have the other side, okay, it affects a lot of the senior citizens. And you don't want to hurt them. They paid their dues too. You know, so there's got to be a happy medium. But I just disagree with using the fund balance at this time. I don't think we can afford it.
Dominic, fund balance or no?
You know my opinion, no.
Just getting it on the record. Herb,
Yes.
use fund balance. Keep it where it's at, or use more, or use less. Here's what the preliminary that the finance committee worked through in their budget workshop. We utilized $780,000 is what we sent up to the treasurer, I'm sorry, the budget officer. And he utilized $1,340,000. So.
And you know why he did that? He did that because he knows that this board is not going to make the cuts that they're supposed to make. So he utilized more of the fund balance.
Well, if you're a betting man, that's the safe bet, isn't it?
Yeah, I
Fund
give
balance.
it
Mike?
You can ask me fund balance?
Yes?
Yes.
Brian?
So the budget that we last worked on, the finance committee, recommended, what, 70?
780.
$780,000 of fund balance.
And that was with how many? job cuts? Do you have any idea?
No, I don't recall off the top of my head. I believe it was at least 30.
So if you take another, let's see, if you're talking 30 jobs, put those back in, that's where the 1.3 roughly comes from.
Yes.
I'm assuming.
When you did the budget.
So basically, from what we presented to what Sean's tentative is basically just putting the positions back in, and the outside,
No, no outside.
no outside.
What's your calculator for that? It's about 52%, roughly?
Benefits. Fringe benefits.
Yeah, about 45%. That was
45? Okay. Well,
Well, so my opinion is,
go ahead.
obviously, you can't continue to burn fund balance, because all you're gonna do is kick the can down the road. So if you're not gonna burn fund balance, what are the other options?
Raise taxes or cut?
Right, and we do not have the consensus to exceed the 2% tax cap. So your only other option is to make cuts, whether it be outside agencies, jobs here. And I haven't seen through all the budget workshops that we've worked through, other than the last few, the consensus throughout the whole board to make the cuts in staff.
Here's the problem.
What are we here for? Well, we just might as well just present the tentative budget to the board and let it go.
Well, then-
Nobody's gonna make a decision to cut anything.
I'm willing to cut. Don't say nobody.
Don't say nobody.
You wanna use the fund balance. If you don't wanna use the fund balance, you gotta cut.
We have
You wanna use
cuts,
it.
3 pages of cuts. Did you check them?
We only have one budget, tentative budget.
Right, and then I went, well, we did against that. So we
Yeah,
already,
there's no-
well, we can go back and say we want to change it.
In the legal format of the budget process, there's only one budget that counts.
This one.
The tentative budget.
Right, but when we did, we made after suggestions.
We offered up suggestions.
Okay, so why can't we go and put our suggestions back?
We can go back and take the yellow column and say that's the preliminary budget, and that's gonna be the finance committee's recommendation. Doesn't use any fund balance, cuts 35 jobs.
I thought one of them, when you did it on the last one on the wall there, that it was 700 and some, to stay within a percentage.
That
Am I wrong
was,
on that?
the yellow that Dominic is talking about, I believe, was the preliminary budget. That was before the budget, or the finance committee did their budget workshops. That's called the modified preliminary.
So getting back to my point, you're not gonna exceed the 2% tax cap. You're not gonna use fund balance. You're gonna cut 30, 35 positions. What do you do next year?
There is no encore.
I don't know the answer. Other than,
We strike oil on county property. Short of that, we all have to do our job as the legislature for Montgomery County and make the hard decisions. So am I wasting my time here?
No, I say a lot of this, what we did, we should keep off of that suggestion.
Okay. let's try to figure out a process. Do we want to go through it department by department? Do you want to try to, I mean, obviously, there are certain departments that you're gonna do absolutely nothing with because there's nothing to take. You got weights and measures that it's one person, his budget's been trimmed down so bad that he's scrambling at times trying to figure out if he's gonna be able to buy gas at the end of the year. So, you've got those departments that really there isn't anything to take. You got the other departments that perhaps it's okay with the city, but it's not okay with the towns. And you got departments that are okay with the city, but it's the, what's the process that you want to do? You want to go line by line through the departments, you want to present something individually and work through those. What do you want to do? Butch?
I would recommend that we go with the preliminary, that is to the full board, and let the full board go with it, utilizing no fund balance, and let the full board make their changes. It's gonna hurt Sean. Sean's gonna come up with all these resolutions, and they're all gonna get shot down. Am I right or wrong, Sean? If we go with that limit?
Well, I don't think he's going to come up with the resolutions, we are.
Well,
He's already doing his part.
Right.
The budget.
You say put everything back in?
No, take it all
no,
back
take it
out.
out.
The first,
Preliminary with the budget off to the finance committee did?
yes.
Like I
Not-
said, I did supply everybody with the sheet that shows the difference between the tentative and what the finance committee did in their workshops.
Right, but you had 4 sheets that took out, I've seen so many numbers now, I can't remember how much you took out. Was it $3 million?
Oh, the initial sheet?
Yes. Is that the sheet that you're referring to, Butch?
No, I'm talking about the sheet that Dominic came up with that has a zero fund balance, utilization, okay, and had the cuts. Dominic, you got that?
Yeah, I think that was the green column when Sean came out.
Modified.
Correct.
With the 4 pages, that's the green column.
That's the one that the
That's-
finance committee worked through in their budget workshops.
Right.
Okay, so what you're saying is to represent what we presented to the treasurer on those workshops
To the full board.
to the full board.
No. Present the green column
Green.
to the
green
full
column.
board,
Right.
which were the 4 pages of cuts. They used no fund balance and stayed within the cap.
Right.
Right,
That's a starting point.
correct. And and that recommendation to the full board, because you know the full board is gonna come back, no matter what we do, and you're gonna hassle this thing all over again. It happens every single year.
Yeah, I'm gonna bring a lunch this time.
Well, what I'm saying though is at least it's a start. We started with no fund balance. These are the cuts. Let the full board, you got 15 guys to recommend what should go for the next budget.
So we're gonna have to go through
Don't matter what we do.
the 2 budgets. I'm just saying, we're gonna have to go through the 2 budgets, see where they line up, and where they're different, we're going to have to present a resolution with those differences.
Marked everyone in black.
There's everyone. Everyone has to be a participant here. We find it happening even when we talk about, and I use it, if we talk about Medicare Advantage, we can't drag department heads along to agree with us. I mean, you gotta be a participant. So, and this is what happened. We discussed it last night, and we actually talked about it. This is not an executive session material. But when we talked last night about presenting to the unions, I mean, what is the financial condition of the county? Where it stands and where it's going. The thing is, it's not only we have to do it with the bargaining units, we have to do it with every one of the department heads. To work out of this thing, the department heads have to become part of this decision-making process. They have to understand that here's the situation. here's what we have to work under. You know, we have this thought that we are somehow or another, there's an animosity between us and the department heads in the respect that, well, the department heads are not gonna come back with cuts. Well, the cuts are gonna be there. They're gonna be there one way or the other. They can either be there with their input, or they can be placed upon them. It's better that they understand what their problems are and have the time to work through it.
You know, Dominic, they did come in.
Just a minute, Butch. I had Michael first.
I'll make it quick so we can talk. So what you want to do in effect, if I can do this in a logical sequence, is you will print out that column. You'll have it printed in some kind of form. You will present this to all the department heads. Maybe you'll have some kind of indication, and here's what you got to look at, here's the difference. And say, it's going to be presented to the full board, then you're probably going to be called in, at least you'll have a couple of weeks or whatever to see what we did to your department.
Absolutely.
We have till December 20th.
Well, time goes fast.
Time goes fast, but if we don't do anything, other than sit here and argue
He
with
has
it,
something about it, about doing that as a starting point. Doesn't mean everybody's going to agree with it, but at least we'll get somewhere we're not going to get. If you listen to Brian, Brian's telling us, basically, he's put it in a perspective. If you don't want to do this or this is all you can do. But are people willing, and you're right, there's a lot of people not here willing to cut. I am. I go along with almost everything we did in here, maybe except a couple of items.
Well, if you're willing to present that budget, modified preliminary budget is the heading that I'm seeing here.
right.
If you're willing to present that budget, that means that you're willing to cut.
I said,
Because that's what that budget does.
I just said.
Go ahead, Butch.
Okay, the thing is that at least if we have that as a